Yeah.
Yeah, that's all she does. She absolutely is.
I get some questions in there.
Those are fun. Like the Jamie, everybody's got to have their Jamie. I think the Jamie position is the best. Like the Jamie Joe Rogan.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, you're a Joe Rogan fan too? Wait.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. I've been trying to do this Jason CrossFit Media thing. So
because the intro.
Yeah, because I love him. Like I do. I love that dude so much. But like, all right, so Tyler Watkins, creator of the Heat One app, purveyor of general nonsense, and the color commentator for the Sevon podcast, Barbell Spin, and creator of Zcore. So I'm so excited to have you here. I'm super pumped. This is very, very cool.
The purveyor of nonsense. I forget I do like little things to make myself laugh. And then people are like, did you do this? And I'm like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. So yeah, purveyor of nonsense on my Instagram.
Love it. Thank you so much, bro. I really appreciate this. Let's go into, just because this story was super fun, I'll bring up Corey Leonard because I love him. But the Buford T. Watkins, how do we get to Buford? I do like it though.
This is another thing. It was just like Corey could probably tell the story better than I could, but it happened like 2 days ago. We were in the chat and I was commenting something, and Sevon brought up my name, and it's Jason T. Watkins. Because I go by my middle name, Tyler, but my first name's Jason. And I've just never changed it. And it pisses everybody off because they're like, they don't know who I am. Then once they figure it out, they're like, why don't you change it? And then I think Corey said like it should be more Southern, like Buford. And so I just threw it in there. So I never could change it to Tyler to make it better or shorter. I'm just gonna keep throwing names in there.
I like Buford too. I think that's fun. For real. I do. I can call you Buford. I'm okay with that.
Have you always gone by your middle name, or was that just later?
It's a family thing. We all go by our middle names. From what I understand, I thought it was normal. It's like an Appalachian thing. Sort of like most people I knew kind of went by their middle names, or it was a common occurrence. And it wasn't until I sort of moved out of Kentucky that I realized, oh, this is not really normal.
Did you do it because a lot of your family has like the same names? Like
my dad's name is Jason.
Okay.
And then my grandfather would call me Jason Jr. And my dad was like, I fucking hate that. Don't
get your own name.
But the plan was to always call me Tyler. My dad goes by his middle name. All his brothers go by his middle name. My grandfather only had one name, which I think is interesting. But yeah, it's just the thing we do.
My mother had only one name though. I feel like it was maybe, older. They just only gave one name. My mother was also one of 8, so I think they also ran out of names. They couldn't keep using the same name. Too many names.
You have to remember 32 names. You're just like, no, you just get one.
So I think I found you. I definitely feel like the first time I ever saw you like on a podcast was during Waterpalooza when you went on and you did cap or no cap. And I remember just thinking that was hysterical because like 99% of people didn't know what cap and no cap meant. There was one point where I tried to explain it to Sevon, and it just didn't.
When he's not getting it, it's just like
at all.
It's not being absorbed.
And so when you guys started that, I remember it was like one of the very first times that I was able to put the podcast on in my car while I was driving around, and I had to pull over because I was laughing so hard at the fact that you guys kept having to explain what cap or no cap meant. So where did that come from? Who was...
I think it was probably Will came up with it. That feels like it's right. It was Will or JR. I know like JR loved that idea, but I can't see JR bringing up the idea, but I can see him loving it. So I really think Will was behind it, but it might have been JR.
It was the most fun experience I've had at like a live event, like watching a live event, watching people go live, because I was like, they figured it out. They figured out what cap or no cap meant, but now to try to explain it to people that don't know what that means, that is the best part of that whole thing. And now nobody uses it. No one says
it. It's over.
Yeah, it was like a 3-month thing, and then it was gone.
It just doesn't feel right to like something about being like, no, that's cap comes off weird. Like it doesn't feel useful for very long.
It's so funny. Okay. All right, cool. So that's where I found you.
I don't remember doing those shows almost at all.
Were those the first ones you did?
No. No, I've been doing, I think, shows since like 2021 or 22. That was the first like in front of people show I've ever done. That was the coolest part of it. It was that like we've not done this in front of a real crowd. And it was funny because like building that up in my head going to Waterpalooza, I was like, there's going to be like 600 people in front of us. And there was not that many in front of us.
Were you relieved that there wasn't that many people in front of you? Were you disappointed? A little bit of both?
It was a little bit of both. Like where they put us was just it was not a well-organized spot. Like I thought it was going to be like much more organized, but it was cool because everybody in front of us, like they all introduced themselves and I knew their names from the chat. And so it was kind of a familial deal. Like I really enjoyed, like we were putting on a show for the people we knew anyway.
Right.
So it's like Kelly and Sabir, like you'll see them in the chat all the time. I met both of them. It was great in that way, is like we were just hanging out with people who liked us anyway.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Aren't they? And they're from like another country. Are they?
They're from some little bitty island out in the Atlantic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do they just run up to you and they're like, hey, we're this icon.
Kelly and Sabir. Yeah, and it's like the chat's running through my brain. I'm like, oh yeah, I know who you are.
That's fire.
Yeah. So it was cool, but I can't remember it because it was like I was sleeping like maybe 2 or 3 hours a night, and it was like I was at that point. It was early in the day, and I was probably like 3 monsters deep, and like we had no plan. Like Will had some sort of plan about what we were gonna do, but I was like, I don't know what the hell we're gonna talk about. So I was just going up there, and it was like we're just gonna free flow this whole thing. So it's like I can't remember any of it. Hardly.
There's no nerves on that. Like John Young came on, he is like ice cold. I've never been freaking nervous on anything ever in my entire life. And so now I just mess with everybody. Like Chase was like, I was nervous as shit. They threw me into the fire. And
were you nervous when you started this show?
Yeah, for sure.
How long before it goes away? Or are you still nervous?
Still nervous.
Sevon says that, and I don't believe his ass.
Nervous. Still nervous every single time.
I don't know. When the unreleased episode with Sevon, so you know about this.
Yeah, there's one. We heard. We heard.
The only episode that Sevon's never released, and it was terrible. I'm not a great public speaker, I feel like. I have the problem of I assume everyone knows what I'm talking about, or I assume they get my idea, but they're not in my brain, so of course they wouldn't know. So anyway, explaining Zcore. Number one, like we talked about before, when Sevon doesn't get something, he ain't freaking getting it.
Oh, I remember when that was at one of the, was it a regional?
It was Rogue. Rogue is like, I wrote it about Rogue and Haley Adams because she would have gotten third, and like instead she got like fifth or something. But anyway, yeah, so he wasn't getting it.
No, he wasn't.
And it is sort of complicated. You have to like detach your brain from a lot of the things you think you know. And I wasn't good at giving an interview, so we've never released it. I remember before that podcast, I could have thrown up.
Gotcha.
And it was it was probably a year before I didn't get nervous on episodes anymore. Doing the show with Spin every week, like, has made it to where I can just step in front and I'll be like, oh, I can figure it out. I'm not someone who gets test anxiety. Like when it's game on, it's game on. And so that sort of came through for me. But in the early days, like I would get super nervous.
Because I noticed you seem super driven always, and super driven at a young age, right? Like you would post these things, these quotes that honestly, I wrote the quotes down for myself because I was like, damn, these quotes are amazing. Like,
this could be another thing where it's like, what the fuck did I say?
I mean, how old were you when you were in 2016?
24.
Yeah, so young to be that like dialed in. You know what I mean? You're like karma equals results of habits. You know what I'm like life doesn't happen to you, life happens for you if you choose it. Like
Oh
you're right,
yeah.
you're
I
putting
was
all
going through a big reading phase right then. Yeah.
yeah. And I was reading them and it was very cool because not many 24-year-olds are gonna be able to digest that. And so you just seem super driven at a very, very young age.
Well, what you're seeing a snapshot of in that point in my life was me figuring it out. So I feel like I was late. I've always been sort of a late bloomer. Like it takes me, like the people who piss me off, like Will pisses me the fuck off because anything he does, he's really good at it pretty quickly, or he knows the next move to make. He's like, no, this is a really obvious thing to do. Like learning to visual edit or during these different things. Like it's really easy for him to figure that out. It takes me much longer. And so like school was like that for me. I never really tried in school. I went to college because they reached out for me to play football, but I hadn't applied to any colleges. And then a college comes to recruit me to play football. I was like, oh yeah, I should do that because I hadn't applied. And then like I switched majors like 6 times. I took a year off of school. And then like, so at that point where you're reading, I just went back into school and I had stopped listening to everyone else and I started educating myself. So I stopped going to class and I just taught myself how to be an accountant.
I was going to say, why did you land on accountant?
Because I'm an idiot. So I went.
Your personality I don't see you sitting in a cubicle. Like, I mean, I see you doing math and I know you like obviously numbers, but I don't see you telling, people, hey, tell me how much gas you use this year so I can write it off for you. You know what I mean? Like,
I'll answer that. Let me finish this and I'll go back.
Yeah.
So yeah, during that point in my life, I was really driven because I'd sort of finally figured myself out a little bit, at least at that time. I was like, oh no, like the work is on you. You have to figure this stuff out. And so it's like I noticed the more work I put into things, the more I educated myself, the more I just put it on myself to do things, I had better results as opposed to like putting it on other people or just waiting for something good to happen. I just started doing stuff. So yeah, I think the drive that you're seeing at that point in my life is if you had looked at any other point, you wouldn't have seen it prior to that moment.
Cause you found CrossFit then fairly early, right? Cause I saw that you did like all of us do. You see the Rich Froning movie and you're just like hooked completely.
Yeah.
Just I'm going to do this. This is it. Blah, blah, blah. You see him and you're just captivated by it. And you somehow got a no-handed muscle up. What do you remember?
Oh God. Did you go through Facebook?
I went through everything, bro.
I don't get on Facebook anymore, so I forgot about that. Yeah.
Do you want to see your no-handed?
Yeah, I want to see.
Sure. Absolutely.
I haven't seen this in years, I don't think. Is this on Facebook? Am I right?
No, this is Instagram.
Oh, okay. Who knows what's on that? I'm interested. Oh, yeah. I reset. I remember this. Funny story about this. This is around Dex Hopkins all the time. So anybody who knows Dex, he's an old competitor.
So like, look, your hands are through the rings on the end of it. Like that's crazy.
I was able to land that. I just fought it until I landed it.
Yeah, I was watching it and I was like, what? I can't even do a muscle up with hand, and it's on your forearms.
I was able to get my hands back on the rings and finish the dip out all the way.
It's crazy, dude. I was like, all right, well, I'm about to ask him about obviously you are driven because if you're willing to put all your weight at the top of a dip on your forearms, I mean,
I don't know I think you're confusing driven with stupidity. But yeah.
But
go ahead.
No, redhead, you go.
When did you find CrossFit? That was the question.
November of 2011. I was in Tennessee, and my football coach, I had gained some weight coming out of high school, and it switched to college football, and it just wasn't doing as much. And then my football coach was like, my high school football coach was like, do you want to do this CrossFit thing with me? I was like, what's that? And he was like, basically it's what the Navy SEALs do to train. And I was like, fuck yeah. Like, let's try that. And then, so we started in November and we trained for like a month and I lost a ton of weight. And then we had Christmas and Thanksgiving and all that stuff. And when we came back in January, we started training again. And then that's when I really got hooked. He told me like, yeah, there's this dude who lives like a couple hours away. He won like the world. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, there's this thing called the CrossFit Games. And that's like, I went home and I started Googling, and I never looked back after that.
You dove into all of it.
Yeah.
Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
So I was really inspired because Rich was in Tennessee, it felt like it was something I could accomplish because he was just some dude in some small town. And so I was like, oh, I can do that shit then.
And so do you just go all in? Or are you like, yeah, I'm gonna oh wait, hold on. I'll get your buddies if you want. Where did you compete at? Tyler is a great competitor too. Did you
I met Jeff in TFX in Texas.
Okay.
I'm an okay competitor. As long as everybody else is bad, I'm great.
Vindicate, is this guy famous or something? I mean,
no.
To me he is, but yeah, sure.
So how long until you went to Mayhem? Did you ever go to Mayhem?
Yeah, I got my level 1 there in 2000, I think 13, November of 13, I think. Yeah, and back then it was like, back then it was like sold out. It was hard to get into them. Mayhem had one like constantly. I remember Rich's dog, like for any of the like people who've been around a long time, Gilligan, like he's in some of the old videos. Like Gilligan came up to me and I threw the ball with Gilligan for a while. Rory was my level 1, and one of my level 1 instructors, Rory McKernan.
Oh, okay.
It was a cool time.
I always say level 1 weekend is really cool. I took my level 1 out
what
here.
Year?
2020.
Yeah.
COVID year. Yep. And I always say that if you love CrossFit, even if you don't want to be a coach, you got to go take your level 1 weekend. Like there's just something amazing about the weekend. I loved CrossFit for so long before I even did it. And then what happened was the gym that we were a part of with COVID, they lost coaches and they were like, hey, we just need help. And I was like, okay, sure, no problem. And I went, and it's the coolest weekend ever. So I always say like, you should definitely, absolutely do it.
I left actually, like, it was like I was disappointed and not disappointed at the same time. Like I had a really great time and I learned a ton, but I was like, oh, this is going to sound bad, but I was like, this doesn't prep you to be a coach. It just teaches you about what CrossFit is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Agree.
But I went back home and I was like, no, everybody in the class, like if you've done CrossFit for over a year, go do your level 1 because you're bought in enough now. Now you need to be educated in it.
Yep.
But yeah, if you want to be a coach, like go do your level 2 for sure.
Yeah. And I had a coaching background anyways. I was a dance teacher, so I was able to be around and be in public and I had fallen in love with this. Yeah. And I had fallen in love with the sport anyways, and doing it for so long that it was more fun for me to become a coach because I felt like I understood the movements, but then for me, the best way to get better at them is to teach it because then I understood it more. So kind of being thrown into the fire was like, hey, I need your help. Go do it. It actually was really cool because I could understand a snatch better for myself as well as teaching it. And it became one of my favorite lifts ever to teach and do. Did you ever do your level 2? Did you go on to do your level 2? Did you coach, ever wanted to coach or yeah?
Yeah, I coached. We had like, I went to CrossFit Maximus. We had a pretty large gym. I think there were over 400 members at one point.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big gym.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Have you guys been?
No, but I remember it. Like it would be in social media. I remember finding it. Yeah.
Where are you guys located, by the way?
New York.
New York. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we had a pretty big gym. And so I would coach. And my thing is I don't like following the rules, and I don't like processes of like steps I have to take. I'm an accountant, and
I'm gonna get there. I really want to know.
Rules for thee, not for me. So they had like this friggin' like really long like apprenticeship process. And it's like I'd been coaching football, like I understood the movements really well. Like I helped people that I trained with, and I just didn't want to do it. But it's like, so I got like halfway in, and I was like, I'm not playing this game anymore of like doing your little. But I ended up teaching like like a gymnastics class that we had. That was a lot of fun. But that's what I found for me, like you were saying, I was never really a gifted athlete. And so I had to work a lot harder in football to like understand the game, and then understand like I'm not very like I played defensive end. And so I'm like 5 foot, probably like 5'8", 5'7", and 185 to 90 pounds in high school. I'm like almost a foot shorter than the guys that I'm playing
everybody
with.
else, right?
Everybody, not a foot shorter, but I'm like quite a bit, at least 6 inches shorter, and 50 pounds at least less heavy. So I had to figure out how to use my body appropriately, because I couldn't just brute strength guys.
No.
And so I really learned the technicalities of playing the game, and like how to use my body, how to push and pull them this direction if I want to do this, and like almost get more out of myself than they could, because they didn't have to learn. They're just like, I'll just run through you.
I'm just athletic like that.
Yeah. And so CrossFit was really complicated. Like all the movements have several different pieces that make like a snatch is like, there's so many parts of a snatch that can get complicated. Or the ring muscle up was one of my favorite to teach. And then like a handstand walk. And it's like, there's 1,000 ways that this can go wrong unless you break it up into these steps. And I was already good at that because of football. Like a swim move is just this, 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 and this. But you break A, B, C, and D down, and then you just drill A, you drill B, and you drill C, and then you're done.
Yep.
That's sort of like what I dug out of it.
Yeah.
Did you end up liking like CrossFit? You liked CrossFit way more than football. Like once you got into CrossFit, you're like, hell yeah, this is for me. And this is
yeah. Well, when it's like everybody that's winning is 5'8", and I was like, yes, I got a shot.
This is my sport.
And then I could never get stronger, and I was like, oh no.
You've never gotten over 185 or never?
No, I can get heavier. I just can't get stronger. Yeah. No, it's like my strength gains have just always, I think my body was not meant for CrossFit in the volume that it takes to get better at it. I didn't come in very strong, and then the time I would have had to take to just get strong to play the game, essentially, like it would have been 5 years of investment. And then it's like, oh, I might as well just weightlift at that point.
Right. I gotcha.
So.
All right. So doubling back to you're graduating from Kentucky, you're an accountant. You don't seem super happy when you post that. You're like, you don't really need school. You could go to trade school. You don't really need college. Like, so you're obviously already like, hey, this is not for me. I'm not super excited about this. What's your next move? What's your thought process? How do you get from, well, I'm a certified accountant to, yeah, no, I'm not. I don't care. Like I want to do something.
Well, that post was like, I was really disenfranchised with what I bought. I was like, you didn't teach me anything. I could have gone to school part-time and then worked the other half of the time, and I would have known more in 4 years than I learned being in school for 4 years. So I was like, what the hell are we paying for? And then also add in the fact that when I had gone back to accounting school, I stopped going to class and just taught it all to myself. And so I was like, what are we doing? So when I got out, I was okay with being an accountant. I hadn't done the work yet. So I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. So I worked at a hardware store for a while. I worked there for a lot through college. a local like mom and pop hardware store is like some of the best times are in there.
So cool. Yeah, for sure.
While working at Maximus, I was doing that. And then I started at this local place. They were a merchandiser. And so they're called Mad Merch or P3 Promotions, whichever. What we would do is we would do all the merchant. We would handle the printing and all that stuff for the merchandise that they would sell at like Lollapalooza, Austin City Limits. Like we would do it all, and we would outfit. We would send all that product out to them. Now we wouldn't do the printing ourselves. We would get somebody else to do it. But then we also added in another portion of the business where we would sell the shirts. It's like if we're printing them or if we're getting people to print them, we might as well sell them too. So we kind of made money on both ends. So it's like my first week at that job, I wrote Jack Black like a $40,000 check of merchandise that we sold.
Like
so that
Jack
was cool.
Black?
Yeah, Jack Black. Like
literally Jack Black.
It says like Jack Black on the check, but I'm like, this is going to his like manager or whoever.
Right. Okay.
But it was pretty neat.
That's still fire.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's around Jumanji time. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. So I wasn't there super duper long. And then I got a job as basically a controller for a chimney company. So we did chimney services, and then we also manufactured chimney parts. And then COVID happened, and I had to get them through that. And that was a lot of fun. We actually came out much better through that, but it was scary there at times. Like I was working all the time. I was constantly wondering what our cash was, because we made a lot of money, but we also paid out a lot of money. So it was always tight. So that was like, I got through into the fire. I went from like, basically just paying bills to running an entire company.
Oh shit.
Oh, so you got thrown. This is the common thread I think that I've been hearing mostly, is that all of this, everybody's kind of figuring out how to, like, they're just getting thrown into the fire and they're figuring out how to do it on their own, and they're kind of self-taught or self-made, which we can't use anymore. But and you taught yourself, which is, I think is really cool. And so when you're doing this now, when do you find the actual media space? Like when, like you've already taught yourself how to run a company. You already taught yourself how to make merchandise. You already taught yourself how to be a CPA. So like now when are you like, hey, I'm going to teach myself media? When does that creative kind of bug hit?
So from that job, my wife, was getting her master's at UVA. So we moved to Charlottesville. I started managing several real estate firms. We were a franchise. So I would talk to like the franchise owners all the time and make sure they were steady. I would also do I did like financial management, but also their accounting. I was still training. I still thought like I have a chance at like being a team athlete or something, but I thought a lot about like, at that point, I was trying to get more out of my body, and I wanted to know exactly what it took to be like a CrossFit Games athlete. Like, what do you have to back squat? What do you have to run your mile time? Like, what are all your splits on all these movements? And so that's when I really got into like the science of the sport. But I was just doing that on my own and like just talking to friends. And then that's when I got a coach at TTT. And then we moved to Auburn, Alabama. I worked for a CPA firm, and that's when it hit. I hated working at the CPA firm, and I was pretty like, I liked my life, but I was not happy because my job wasn't gratifying. Like basically, if you've ever worked at a CPA firm, like you just sit in an office, like you don't really talk to business owners all that much. You don't solve really difficult problems. It's just a lot of management. It's a lot of looking at a computer. And like, I really like people. I like talking to people. And so I was just dying.
Yeah.
But I was looking at a computer all day, and I was like, what can I do with this computer? And then it was around that time that I started thinking about like, if you win an event by a lot, but then lose by a little on something else, but somebody beats you by one place every time. Did I lose you guys?
No. Did you lose whatever cup you have on that desk? That's what it sounded like.
No. My computer's locked or something. As long as you can still hear me, I'll get my.
We can hear you and see you.
That's weird. I can't see anything. So anyway,
now you're gonna freeze. Yeah.
What is happening? All right.
This is a John Young situation. This is just payback for you messing with John Young about his computer.
Am I back? There we go. Yeah, this is payback. Anyway, so I sat cooped in my office all the time, and instead of working, like I would rush to get my work done, but I was doing like the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So Zcore came first.
Zcore came first.
Okay.
And I was like, and I still think the methodology behind what I wrote about that is true. Whether we should implement it or not, it's a whole different story. But that's where I got my start. I reached out to Brian Friend, and I was like, I think I really got something here. Like this could change the entire landscape of the sport. And I think he agreed. And so I wrote a paper, and it was terrible. And then I sent it to him, and he told me to rewrite it. And I basically took everything out. I think it was like 10 pages or something.
Oh, wow.
And I cut it down to like 2. Mm-hmm. It's pretty science heavy, or math heavy.
Yeah. Did this stem? Oh, sorry. No, go finish.
And then he got it put on Morning Chalk Up, and then the rest sort of history. But ask your question.
Sorry, I am
so stuck. I'm this way too.
Because I want to ask you so many, like, there's so many things I've always wanted to ask you, but did this stem anyway from the games where it was the 19 games and it was just the 5, it was just the 5. It was like Noah and Matt, and that was
2020.
2020.
Okay, 2020.
It did not stem from that games. I felt vindicated, but I originally thought of this idea back in 2017 when Cara lost to Tia. Because I thought Cara had beat Tia. She barely lost to her whenever she would lose, and Tia would lose by larger margins. And I was like, that's just not fair. And so that's when I started cooking up this idea. And it took me, I mean, hell, I still screw with it now, but it took me a long time. It took me maybe 4 or 5 years to get it manageable.
And was it the Crash Crucible that you actually tried to do it at? Or
so we've done it 2 years now. The first year was actually Zcore, like in how we put it out in that paper for Morning Chalk Up. But then like later I made it much more simple, much more user-friendly, much more understandable. And I call it like performance. We just call it performance scoring now, P-score.
Yeah.
And it's much better.
So you have to bring it back down. It was 10 pages. Now it's 2 pages.
Yeah.
Now you're learning how to kind of implement it into competitions. Now, do you just want to bet on these competitions? Like, are you in DraftKings? Are you betting too much? Do you want, like, does now the over under thing start popping into your brain?
So back to 2017, fantasy came first. I had been thinking for a couple of years, like what I want to do is like pick who I think is going to win in that event and play them. And so I had never played like fantasy sports before.
Oh, you had nothing. No,
I had no. I was just like, I think I understand how fantasy sports work. Like you draft some players and then you play them and then you get points and that's about it. And so I built that in like a Google sheet and I got my wife and her sister and a few of our friends to all play. And yeah, that's when it started. And I didn't do anything with it for a couple of years. And it wasn't till I went on TTT's podcast talking about Zscore. And somebody had heard, I think CTP was like, he was like, wait a minute, this conversation came up. And he was like, you invented like fantasy for the sport. And he was like, you should get somebody to develop that and stop screwing around with Zscore. It's like, no one's ever going to do that. So someone reached out and that's how it all started.
It's just a Google document you make, and you and your wife, like, does your wife say, are you crazy? Like, what are you doing? Like,
it took forever for them to get it. And they were nice and that they played along with what I was doing. And then they started to enjoy it.
I like it. I just found it. So I like it.
He won.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's like I've been through a business partner. I have a great business partner, new business partner, Adam now, and he's an amazing developer and does all that stuff for me. And I just try to stay on top of the sport as best as I can.
Oh, so now you actually have someone that's actually helping you now, doing it for you, like creating, designing the app. And
yep.
When there was a comment in one of the shows where someone was like, "Hey, you should just add the," oh, Chase said it. "Hey, you should just add this to the app and put this bet in there." And you're like, "Do you know how much work that is?" Like, how much, if you just decide like, "Hey, I want to add Fee Sagafi versus whoever into the app bets," like what is it that you actually have to do? Like, how many people do you have to call? How many, like,
I have to call Adam and I say, "Adam, can we do this?" And he's just like, because I say the craziest shit to him. I'm like, "Hey, Adam, like, let's do this. And it's going to be playable across like 10 months. And like, we'll have all these filters." And he's like, "No, we're not doing any of that. That's way too hard." Or the other day, it's like, I wanted him to build like on the fly. I was like, "Hey, let's do a clock that we can put up on Sevon's show. And then like, we can everybody can download the app from their phone, and then we can count reps on the app, but it'll go straight to his show." And he was like, "Dude, that's going to take me like 4 months. Like, you can't just ask you."
So what you're saying is that Adam tells you no more
a
than
lot. But I enjoy it because I'm like, okay, like a lot of the times now I'll be like, "Adam," because like without him, like this whole thing doesn't fly. Like, I've become the face of this thing. I sort of hate that is the way it is, but it's that way right now. And I get a lot of this credit, but it's all on him. I come up with a lot of the ideas and then I just feed them to him and he says yes or no. And so now I'm like, "Adam, here's what I'm thinking. Is this doable?" And he'll be like, "Yeah, but it might be over like the course of 6 months, as opposed to we can do this overnight." But it's like, there was no app before this year's games, this most previous games. 3 months out, there was no app. And we were able to get an app out and 5,000 people download it in 3 months' time. Incredible. So it's like, he's totally capable.
How long before the games do you meet him that you even start working on an app?
3 months.
That's so fire, but so crazy.
I talked to him. I wasn't sure. Like, I'm really, Spin will tell you this. I'm really I don't trust people. It takes a long time for me to be able to be like, "Yeah, I like you," or not. So I didn't totally trust him. It's just my base operating procedure.
Yeah, I get it.
And I talked to him, and there was just something about, I was like, "No, this is a good dude." And I was just like, I don't really have any options, and I really don't want this to die, because we had operated as lawn chair leaderboarding for a year, and it was a site that sucked, and I'd felt defeated, and I was like, I really want this to be a thing, and I think this can work. And Adam showed me some of his stuff, and I was like, no, I think I believe in this dude. So it was partially like me just trying to trust someone, but then also the fact that like he's amazing, and so it just took off. And we had no options, so we just went. That's
a very cool story.
So it's cool to think about. So you went from a Google sheet to having some of your friends and your wife test it out.
Yeah.
Support you, because that's what they do when you have
that's what they do.
Ideas, and then really started to enjoy it. And then you talked about it on TTT, the podcast. And then and forgive me, I might have missed this. So someone was like, "Hey, this is a great idea." And then they reached out to you, but it wasn't Adam. Adam came later. Can you fill in that little bit on that?
So I had another business partner. He was a good guy. He built what we had as lawn chair leaderboarding. That was the first terrible name. Will advised me 100% against that name back in the day. He's like, "This is so stupid." That. Yeah. And I should have listened to him. I was like, "No, Will, you're so freaking wrong. This is such a great name." So anyway, so he built that, and
it was just a website.
It was just a website.
Okay.
And kind of what you're getting at is like, I always feel like you ever been like, it's like you're running at like elevator doors. And it's like you got one second. It's like I felt like my entire time in CrossFit, like as some sort of media person or whatever I am, has been getting past the next elevator door. So it's like we wrote that article for Zcore, and I was like, I just don't want to die, like that be the only thing I do, and just dry up from there. It's like I was constantly looking for another thing to talk about, like write about, and then that happened, and it was like it gained me access into the semifinals at in Knoxville. So that notoriety got me in there. It got me backstage passes, and I knew that Fraser was going to be there. And so I was like, okay, like not trying to be a creep, but I was kind of like, where is he at? Like, where's he hang out? Like,
yeah, man.
Kind of noticed that stuff. Well, so I know there was like this athlete area downstairs, and I was like, they would sit at those tables every now and again, and I'd walk past there, and he wasn't there. So I was like, okay, I'm going to sit here. I have to put scores in to launch your leaderboarding for the event that just happened, because we were running leagues back then. And then I had known O'Keefe barely because of something. And O'Keefe shows up and he starts sitting down there. And then Fraser shows up and he's sitting there. They're talking. And then so like there's a break in the chat. And I was like, hey, O'Keefe, like we talked, like this is where we know each other. He's like, oh yeah, man. And then we just chat for like 10 minutes. And he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, like I have this fantasy app. And he was like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah. And so he starts talking about it. Well, Fraser's like very competitive in like the Michael Jordan way, where it's like
he bets on shit, right? Like he'll
bets on shit.
Yeah.
And he was like, Matt, look at this. And so Matt was like, he was like looking at it. He's like, oh my God. So we start talking. I start telling him about it. And I was like, we just made this. Like, he was like, will you come to Minnesota for next week's semifinals? That was at the Granite Games. He was like, I want you to pitch. Like, we want to really talk about investing in this. So it was like, there was another elevator door that I just like fucking got in last minute.
That's a crazy elevator door.
Yeah.
So we go to Minnesota, me and my ex-business partner, and we're like talking about it. And it's like, okay, this is what we're going to ask him for. So we sit down with him. It was me, Brian Friend, O'Keefe, and Fraser. We sit there and we talked about like what we could pull off, like what we thought what the future would like, all these things. And then it came time for the money part of the conversation. He's like, okay, so like, what do you guys think? We asked him for $1 million.
That's balls.
Brave.
Like that's so.
Yeah.
Again, you're mistaking balls or drive for stupidity. That was so stupid.
Is that what comes with testosterone? That's fire.
Lack of brains. We asked him for $1 million, and like legitimately, yeah, like you could justify that expense, but what he should have done is asked him for like $50K.
Yeah,
because it's like I could make that work now, especially with what we have going on at Heat One. Like I can make that money strategically work. And that was with a business partner that like couldn't keep up. Adam can keep up. So anyway, it flops, it dies. Like he's like, no, I'm not going to give you $1 million. I don't have $1 million to give you. But
how do you prepare for a pitch like that? Like, do you sit up in your hotel room all night?
It was weeks for me. Like I had a pamphlet this thick of like financials and like data on like what fantasy apps look like and like how that whole industry runs and like what were the steps, laws. Like I was so over prepared. And at the end of the day, it's like, hey man, this can work. And here's why, and here's the marketing we need to do. Here's what we're going to spend the money on. You can make it much more simple than I did, but I didn't know that at the time. Yeah. And so I went too deep again. I went too deep into like the numbers and the science.
The first thing you try to do. I get it.
You like learn from it.
Yeah.
So it failed.
And you're CPA too. So you probably, okay. I got it.
So we continue to utilize launcher leaderboarding for a while, but I could feel like it was downhill. But there was still people who knew me, who knew what we were doing and knew the excitement. That's where I met Dylan Malitsky, the guy who runs Waterpalooza. and every time I was at these things, I was just trying to meet people, be a friendly person, show them that I wasn't some weirdo, so that like other opportunity might arise, so that another elevator door might open that I could run through at the last second. And so that's what I've done.
Have you always had those people skills? Because you said you weren't a very good like public speaker. Were you? Did you always make friends easy? Were you always able to like talk your way out of a paper bag kind of thing?
I was gonna say, or into the next elevator.
Into the next elevator.
Into the next elevator before it closes.
Yeah, I really love that. By the way, I'm gonna use that. The elevator doors closing. I like that a lot. That's fire.
It's like I need the elevator door to start closing to be motivated, almost. But I was pretty reserved as a kid, but we moved a lot. And then, so I think like moving and going to new schools, you just learn how to talk to people, because you're like, I don't have any friends. And after like the fourth time of doing that, it's just like, okay, do I not have friends, or I just fucking talk to people? And so I also think it's like part of Appalachian culture to like ask people about themselves and be friendly in that sort of way. And my uncles are like that a lot. My dad's pretty reserved. He doesn't talk to many people, but my uncles are super like extroverted. And so I spent a lot of time with them when I was like in high school, and I just sort of picked up those habits and I started talking to people. But yeah, like scheming, as far as like talking myself out of a paper bag, like, yeah, I have that habit really bad. Like I like scheming, and I like pulling things off when there's like no hope for it to happen. Like I get excited by that sort of event.
So have you been able to get back, and like, have you gotten that 50K investor? Have you gotten that, or is it just you and Adam just?
Well, so we've actually, we've gotten partners. So we turned, once we had some success at the games, we partnered with Strike Movement. They were able to pay us for some marketing space, so we were able to pay for the trip and like the cost to run the app at the games. And then like we were sponsored by C4, same thing. They helped us pay some bills. Then because of that success, Dylan was cool enough to like see the future in what we were doing, and he gave us a spot at Waterpalooza, integrated us into the live feed, and other people saw that, and we got paid to go to Waterpalooza and be a part of that. We were sold as an asset, a part of Waterpalooza.
That's awesome.
So it's like we're starting to be able to do that. Like, is it a successful business venture at this point? No.
Well,
John texted me yesterday. He's like, maybe it's 2 days ago. He said, Tyler, are you making money with Heat One yet? I love it. Like, it's the rudest question you could ask somebody.
John needs to be careful. He just got a TV, bro. Like, you just got your TV today. You just got a computer today. Like, calm down with people making money right now. Don't worry about it. It's good.
And I just answered him by saying, John, we are simultaneously on the brink of making all kinds of money and being absolutely broke at the same time, at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have friends like that? I absolutely have friends like that are like the richest broke people I know on the planet. I'm like, how are you doing what you're doing right now? You have no money. I know you don't have any money, but you're in freaking the Dominican Republic on a beach. Like, what is happening?
That was what felt so crazy when we were at Waterpalooza, because Tebow, who owns GoWad, was nice enough to put us up in a house down there. And it's like really nice. And we had all like our crew there. Taylor and his crew was there. Like there's like 9 or 10 of us in this house, and it felt kind of cool. And we were, hobnobbing around Miami. And like, I was like, we're almost broke. Like we're balling out like this and we're almost broke.
Yeah, sure. I've done it too.
Yeah.
It's all good.
I mean, like, I'm not like that in my personal life.
Yeah.
It's just different with the app. It's like, you have to do certain, like, we need attention. We need people to download the app. And it's like, you have to strike while the iron's hot. So you have to take chances. And so it's like, if you have to spend all the money that you have to accomplish that, you have to do that. Now, am I doing that personally? No, but not in my personal finances. So, yeah.
How do you keep going when you feel like you've poured everything into something and then it flops, as you say, or like it fades and you really are passionate about it. You know, it started with the Morning Chalk Up article, thinking that that was going to be where you were going to go and that was going to take you off. How do you keep going with the next step and the next elevator door and trying to keep going? Like, what motivates you? Or is it discipline? Or is it, you know, kind of like what you were saying too, there's something about it where it's like almost like you're hopeful, and you like that feeling of like, is it like proving wrong? Is it showing up? Is it ego? Like, how do you keep going?
There are some times that I really want to quit. Like after when lawn chair sort of failed, I was like, I probably just won't pick it. Like when I was doing this, motherfucker. Sorry, it did it again.
Oh,
I'm talking too long, is what it is.
Computer shuts off.
It's timing out.
This time, that's it.
Which is weird because it never happens whenever we're on Spin Show. But anyway, during the Zcore stuff and when I was starting to write as like an analyst, all of that just came super, super easy. I say that it was like I was having to reteach myself how to write. Well, I still don't think I'm a very good writer, but like I was having to reteach myself how to do that. But like it wasn't hard to produce a new article and it go out and it get attention. Mm-hmm. And then like I was being invited on podcasts, like stuff was just happening, and I wasn't trying as hard as I've tried at other things. And I was like, oh, it's a really nice feeling to like, is this what like Rich feels like when he just kills everybody at everything? It's like, oh yeah, this came easy.
Yeah.
Not that I'm on that level.
Yeah.
But then like with the app, it was much harder, but it feels right. And it feels like the future of what needs to happen. And so when Adam just came along, we just happened to bump paths, and then it took off, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm like, part of it's maybe a superstition. Like I'm not supposed to stop. There is a large portion of me that is like, I do things because people tell me I can't. I have this huge, like, I was like the least athletic person in my family, but I went to college to play football. I was the only person in my family to go to college to play sports. Mm-hmm. Like when I dropped out of school, like everybody thought like he won't go back. And then I got back in school, and then like, I was like, oh yeah, like it's obvious I should fail accounting. And then I taught myself accounting. I really don't feel like I belong in the group that exists. And I just keep trying to do things to prove that I can.
Well, they keep inviting you back on. So
I know every time Sevon wants me on, I'm like, why? Why are you inviting me on? So, no, I think about this sometimes. Like people are like, oh, are you not scared of certain things? And it's like, no, but the fear of not doing it is scarier to me than the fear of failing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, like continuing to me is just like, I don't want to be a loser. And I feel like I think maybe if I say it like plainly, like I feel like I was probably born to be a loser. It'd be like my base operating model is a loser, and I'm scared of doing that. Mm-hmm. And so I just keep moving. Like yeah.
So.
That's crazy. I think I got that mentality came for me when we had our son. It was like, I got this immediate, Trish, dude, you are clearly a very bright guy. You fit in great. Yeah, for sure. I got that feeling when we had our son. It was like, hey, I have to leave something in this world for my kid. I have to make sure that, you know, he knows where he came from. Like there's a family kind of legacy for him. And I didn't get that till I had a kid. And that's why I bring up very much that you were so young when you started to have, like, you joke or whatever, but you're not a late bloomer. You were very young when you started to have this kind of drive to do things and try things. And there aren't very many people that are willing to try things and fail, and then try things again and fail again, and then just keep trying to catch those elevator doors. You know what I'm saying?
Just keep hitting your face on the floor. Yeah.
Slide in before they close. Like
one of the like this, I run like psychological analysis on myself all the time. I was raised with it's all boys. The first female in my family was born last year in 40 years. So it's just like dudes. And it's like, I don't really have a relationship with my mom. So it's just like, it's just guys all the time. And when I was always really inspired by like the men in my family. So like my dad's an engineer. He raised me and my three brothers and was like a single dad. And won like custody of us when that wasn't a thing that happened. Like men didn't win custody.
No, that is not a thing that happens at all.
Yeah.
What year was that?
2000.
Oh yeah, no, that does not happen.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
He was a great ball player. He tried out for the Reds. He made it like a couple steps into their trial process. He didn't make it, but he was good enough to like try out at the time in the Reds history when they were very, very good. My uncle, same thing. My grandfather fought in World War II, was a coal miner, came back, had like a wife who like made life a living hell for him, and he just kept going. And it's like, I was always really inspired by them. So it's like, I always wanted to live up to the Watkins legacy.
That's
so it's like, I was raised sort of on a football team of just dudes, who wanted to be as good as the other guys. They wanted to be quality enough for something. And it's funny to me how I've sort of replicated that with the group that we're in now, is because when the guys do something, I feel motivated that I have to match that. It's not that I want to beat them. It's that I want to, like, I don't want to be the low man on the totem pole. I want to be as productive as they're being. I want to be a contributing member.
That's awesome.
Well, being around living with boys, is that where you kind of felt like, you know, you just said that you kind of felt like you were born to be a loser or whatever. Did you feel that just from being with boys, or the pressure of being with boys? Or
no,
like,
I think it's when I went to school, I saw how poor like Appalachian people were, and I saw how poor like our upbringing was, and I just kind of thought like I was trash. And I didn't have like a ton of like, I didn't have any natural abilities that were better than everybody else. Like, the only thing I sort of had, I thought like my ability to think was better than most people, but like everybody kind of has a work ethic. Like, nobody's super duper. I mean, some people are super duper lazy, but like, that's not really a quality that sets you apart. I didn't have any qualities that set me apart. So I was just like, oh yeah, it's like pretty easy to be a loser in life.
I would say your creativity is definitely something that sets you apart. I mean, you might not have seen it then because it wasn't like a physical thing. It wasn't a sport. It wasn't a, you know, I'm going to go to the NBA or something, but your creativity to me is what I've always wanted. Like, how did you figure this out? How did you come up with this? How do you sit down one day and be like, I'm going to create an app today, or there's an app I really want to build today?
We have a friend. I think a lot of people have great ideas. I think a lot of people are actually really creative. They just don't realize it. Like, they don't make it a realization. And so we have a friend that like tries to contribute, and what ends up happening is like, yeah, that's great, but like, why don't you just fucking do it? And so it's like, my creativity, I think my creativity is the same as everyone else's. It's like, I've been able to make, with people's help, make things happen. And that's the only thing that sets me apart. And that's the great thing about the group, is like, I overanalyze a lot, and like, I plan. Like, that's where the accountant part of me comes in, where it's like, I need to plan, like, how much are we going to spend? How's this going to look? What's the process here? Stefan just fucking moves.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
Like, he gets really far because he's just like, oh yeah, we'll do a show and we'll figure it out while we're in the air. And yeah, we don't have any sponsors, but that'll all come. And it's like, I needed a little bit more of that, where I was like, oh yeah, we'll just figure it out. So it's like, yeah, maybe I am creative, but it doesn't matter if you don't make anything.
It's funny to me because he brings up religion a lot, right? And this whatever.
Those are my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy it too, especially after Dave started talking about the Bible and he really started talking about it a lot more and whatnot. But to me, what you just said about him sounds like it's the belief in himself. He just believes he can do it. Like, if I build it, they will come, right? So it's just this monumental belief in something.
I don't think he would say it that way.
I'm sure he wouldn't.
He says like, he says like he's the greatest of all time of certain things all the time. But I don't think he actually believes that, but he's not going to let that stop him.
Yeah, I absolutely think we can debate this. I absolutely think he believes it. He might not know he believes it, but there's no way you move like that and you're just like, hey, I'm going to build something out of nothing if you don't believe in yourself. And I think what you just said about it kind of rubbing off on you a little bit is like, he kind of showed you that belief in just believe in yourself, just go do it, just go make it. It'll happen. It'll come. People will. I'm waiting for there to literally be prop bets. Like I'm over here like prop betting with my friends just because I'm used to that old school throw $5 down on the table and you have like a giant pot on the table and then you yell at the television. But I'm definitely waiting for there to be a way for me to like, oh, I'm going to put $25 into this app and I'm going to bet on like 5 different like things.
I'm going to take those $25.
Yeah, you are. I'll be all right. I will be all right with that. You know what I mean? Like it's all good. But I do think that. I think that it's just this. He just does. I think he just believes that he can make it. And he's got a wife that believes in him. He's got a whole bunch of surrounding people, like the chat, and that they believe in him too. And now you have a whole bunch of people believing in you, like Sevon and the chat. Like the water runs downhill, right? Like everybody's.
Well, I will say that, like, you're talking about Haley, his wife.
Yeah, and your wife. That's the other. We're gonna get there too. Like you have a wife that loves you and is like, "Hey, it's cool. Go make a betting app." Like,
well, it was funny because I was at that accounting job in Alabama, and she's getting her PhD at that point, and like we had this fight, and she was like, basically, like, you need to focus on like something, and that's when the Z-Score stuff started to happen because I had been talking about it for years, but I hadn't done anything. And it's like, how much of that is Haley saying like, hey, Sevon, like, why don't you shut the fuck up and just move forward? So it's like, you hear this a lot. Like you have to have a significant, I don't know that you have to have it. Like there are people who've definitely done it without significant others, but like to push back on your weaknesses and be like, hey, you'd probably be more successful if you did this. And that's been crucial in mine because I do get really down on myself, and a lot of times she brings me out of it. So she keeps me on point.
Say the one that loves you the most is the one that's going to challenge you the most.
Yeah, she does.
It's gonna, they constantly put the mirror up and is like, okay, you say this.
Yeah.
You're showing up like this.
Yeah.
Do you want to keep showing up like this? I also, I feel like that when we plan so much, what we actually do to ourselves is we find all of the reasons on why it won't work. And so being such a planner like you are, and like you've been for a long time, and then getting into the circle where Sevon is, what I learned in my own growth is like, he's a messy action taker. It's very much like, okay, I'm going to throw everything against the wall and whatever sticks, like we're going to figure it out and we'll go from there. Being in that type of circle and kind of being thrown into the messy action, like, is it more stressful for you? Does it bring a lot of anxiety? Did it initially? And are you kind of rolling with it? Like, how does it kind of feel going from being such a planner to Sevon being like, hey, jump on in, let's go?
We were at Crash this for quarterfinals, Taylor Shelf versus the world.
Hell yeah.
And Sousa's losing his fucking mind because he's quite planned. He's very like he's pretty put together.
He seems like it.
He's just like there's no fucking plan. Like everything's going to shit, and I'm just laughing because it's always like that. And that's what I love about it is because it's like there's this group, and like basically Sevon or somebody just spits out an idea, and just people just run in different directions and start grabbing shit. But there's no fucking plan. There's an idea of what it should look like, and that's what we're all running for. And it's like there are people like me and Susan and Will's really good at this, where it's like we focus on like, okay, maybe this should run a little bit smoother. Like if we did these 3 steps, we don't have to be totally planned, but if we do these 3 steps, it might be a little easier. So no, there's a part of me that loves both. There's a balance in it because I am very like measured and want to go, and I won't start because I'm planning. And then you have a group that's like, no, we're moving now. I've learned to start planning on the fly.
Yeah, it's like we're moving. Are you going to move with us, or you can stay back here and plan, but we're going to be 20 steps ahead of you by the time you finish this plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
The greatest thing I ever saw was the fact that Will Brandstetter made a whole video about how to put the equipment together so that Souza could watch the video.
It was a great video too. I was like, oh my God. Like this is a video like tutorial on how to put Legos together, but it's all electronics.
Release that. Cause listen, we did the same thing. It was just like, hey, we want to do this. Sevon's
World t-shirt. Hey,
let's go, Travis.
Yeah, he should make that shirt.
I like this too. I don't want to, can you bring up Vindicates? Sorry, for some reason. One. Yeah. Not having a significant other allowed me to leap. I get that too, in a way that like, if you don't have the right significant other, it feels like pressure and it could be constricting. And so I absolutely understand that too. I get that. I don't think any of us were saying you have to have a spouse that, you know what I mean? But it is helpful when you have a spouse that holds a mirror up for you every once in a while and shows you your shit. So
let me ask you guys. Yeah. You guys have been on Sevon, so
I have.
I haven't.
You haven't yet?
I have.
He's been on. He's been on here.
Yeah.
So you're familiar with his. I'm not going to say anything. He's not. He would say. So when I think about relationships, I kind of go to the Jordan Peterson route, in that men and women offset each other, sort of the chaos and the organization, with females being the chaos element and males being the more organizing element, which is hilarious because we have a group of dudes who it's just all fucking chaos all the time. But anyway, I guess my point in this is I don't think I know any lesbians well enough to ask them, how is it that works in a lesbian relationship?
Fair.
How do you offset and make each other better? And do you think there's a difference in that and a heterosexual relationship?
I can only speak for ours, I guess, in that I am definitely probably I have kind of the more masculine energy. I'm kind of more level-headed in a very high stress situation. I have kind of like my emotions kind of, it's probably not a good thing, but I process them very differently than like my wife does. So like so I just have that, I guess, more masculine energy, and she very much lets me helps me be kind of that chaos. Like, hey, you don't have to plan every fucking thing. We can just go do this. You don't have to make your bed every 5 seconds. Your shoes don't have to be on the fucking like whatever. It's, you know what I mean, sort of thing. And we've only talked about this, I think, with Sevon on Sevon's show, but like I do think roles are kind of not a bad thing. Like it's just I like to handle the money in the house. I like to handle the whatever. She takes care of the house. I don't know where my keys are 95% of the time, or the baby's lunch is, or like whatever. I can't run my house. I have no idea how to run my house, but like she does. So it's cool. That kind of thing.
I mean, for me, the number one.
You're Butch Garrett. I never would have. Thank you, Trish.
Exactly.
Not afraid to answer questions, damn it.
That was perfect, Trish.
Yeah, I'm so glad Trish is not dead anymore.
Me too.
I you guys are all happy that she's back.
Trish is back.
For me, the number one thing was me getting my own shit together. You know, when we first got together, it was.
Sorry, I'm not shaking my head at you.
Yeah. Oh no, it's okay.
Oh, time him out again.
Was I really had to get my shit together. When we first got together, I was the generator of the chaos in our relationship. And that was just because of my own shit. It was my own background, history, traumas, growing up, childhood that I grew up with. I was the creator of the chaos in our relationship. And it really wasn't until we had our son that I really leaned in and asked her to allow me to take care of my shit. Like I needed to look at myself in the mirror. I needed to do the really tough work. And be very honest with myself and get out of that victim mentality and start having my own thoughts and my own beliefs. And I mean, not saying we didn't grow together throughout the years that we had been together since before having our son, but for me, it was very much when I got my own shit together that we were able to now navigate the chaos more like calmer.
You calm down. I was calm. You calm down.
That's what I'm saying. I was not calm when we first got together. That's what I'm saying. Is that now it's not as extreme as it was. So I really think that I know it's so natural to say like a man does this and a woman does this, but for us, we've just created a relationship that works for us. And we do have those roles, but
it ends up fitting that. Yeah. It ends up filling that. Yeah.
Yeah. And we also needed to decide what roles we wanted. Yeah. What was important for her? What was important for me? You know, I wanted to carry our child. And
I wasn't doing that.
And
there's no way.
Zero interest.
Zero shot.
But there were needs that I had that I really wanted. And she also had needs that she really wanted. And I think that for us, you know, again, doing our own self-work, her work, my own personal work has just been able to make our marriage stronger, to be able to kind of navigate. I don't know if that really answers your question, but to kind of
I was just kind of, I ask a lot of open-ended questions just to see where they'll go.
Yeah.
So that was what I was after. I mean, like, essentially, like, I think a lot about the idea of like masculine and feminine. You don't hear this talked about. Like, people have, like, dudes have feminine qualities. I have a shitload of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
Yep.
And chicks have masculine qualities.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
and society forces us. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. And society forces us as women to be in our masculine energy
all the time.
That was not what I was expecting you to say.
Me?
Yeah. Well, just I think the normal thing is to say like I'm being forced into these feminine tendencies, these roles, and you just said the opposite.
Because society has changed it. Society has made women believe that they have to be in their masculine energy all the time. And I believe there's a big part of that for safety, to protect themselves. It's easier to be in that masculine energy of like, I don't need anybody. I don't need a partner, whether it's a man or another woman. Like, I don't need anybody to help me, because so many times in experiences that when you give yourself to somebody and they break you and they hurt you, most people don't ever want to take the opportunity to try again. Mm-hmm. So society just says that are pushing women into their masculine energy and against this whole idea of that there are women that want to be in their feminine energy. And that was something that I struggled with because I came from a single mother. My mother was masculine energy all the time. She had to be. And so I always felt like I needed to do that, but I was battling myself because we're in a world where I'm able to be home a little bit more, the gift that my wife's job gives us. And I was like, I want to be home. I want to be a wife. I want to be a mother. I want to take care of the house. I want that role, but I'm fighting with this idea of masculine energy because it's what I grew up in. And that's why when I asked you this whole idea about, why did you feel like that you were born to be a loser? I think it just proves, and the way that you have chosen to move in your life is that just because we grow up a certain way or we are given the tools in a certain way doesn't mean that we can't develop our own and do our own shit and be our own selves.
The way I sort of talk about that is like the easy way that I think about it is like you essentially have two wolves inside you. And I think about, because my family has like a lot of bad habits. I think everybody's family does. I mean, like alcoholism, like adultery falls in my family like a lot. But I think a lot of people are just like, oh, those exist in me. Like those habits are going to come out. Like you're just I'm destined to do this. And I've never sort of believed that. Like you choose the wolves you feed. Now it might not be as easy for you to not feed the wolf that wants to drink, but you can feed the other wolf. And the other wolf may never be as big as the wolf that wants to go drink, but you choose to feed that other wolf. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, that's like, I agree. Like you're not pigeonholed.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Let's go. Wild zombie. Trish rose from the dead like Jesus. Right around Easter Sunday too.
Weird. It's weird.
Judy Reed, wonder if Ron or Artemis rolled this big stone out of the way. I hope it's Ron. Yeah. Bernie Gannon. It's how we define what is supposed to be masculine or feminine. Having a strong will is not all masculine. Being empathetic is not exclusively feminine, for sure. I mean,
I never minded labeling that, like saying that those were feminine or masculine. I just but I also don't have a problem with being feminine. So it's like, I don't really care what they're labeled. I think they are those tendencies, but I don't care to own them myself.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. Tyler, if we were out somewhere or whatever and like a fight broke out and like I would jump in that fight with you. I'm like, okay, we're brawling today. Like, I guess I got my homie's back. I gotta do what I gotta do. But if there's a freaking spider in the house, I'm be like, yo, bro, can you come get this spider? Get it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hey,
when it comes to spiders, I'm a little feminine.
Oh, damn. Well,
I was going to say, does your wife kill the spiders? Because in this conversation, we're all feminine.
No, I kill the fuck out some spiders.
There we go.
Actually, depending on the spider, I won't kill it.
Oh, yeah.
What do you mean? You just let it
some spiders are good and some spiders are bad. Like,
wait a second. Hold on. Wait. You let spiders hang out in your house by choice?
You did this to yourself, bro.
Wolf spiders get other bugs. You have a black widow in your house, you need to kill it. But wolf spiders are decent. Like a number of them are decent to have around. And then every now and again, if I see one, this might be feminine though, because like there's a cricket in the house. If I can, I'll put it outside. I won't kill it.
Okay.
Or even a spider. Mm-hmm. The masculine thing to do is squish that sucker. The feminine caretaking thing to do is take it outside.
No, it's not.
It's a masculine thing.
No, that's a masculine thing. The feminine thing to do is to call you to come get it and put it outside. No.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm not touching it. Not even a little bit.
Whatever energy it is, feminine. I'm squishing that shit. Whatever energy that's supposed to be, I'm squishing that shit. Or feminine or, yeah.
That's funny.
All right. To wrap this
up,
I
took us way off track. Sorry.
Oh, it's fine. I'm all good. This was so much fun. I can't even I'm sorry in the beginning. I had like so many questions. I just wanted to get out of my brain and ask you, but just to kind of wrap up a little bit, we're talking about being surrounded by all these dudes in this chat and whatever. And a lot of them are married. Some of them have kids, some of them don't, but
hold on real quick. The feminine energy used to burn the house down. Rod Zombie, I agree with you. Sorry.
Chaos. Create chaos.
I had to just share that last piece of feminine energy. Go ahead, babe.
And Rod Zombie,
well, we have to move.
Yes. And now we have to
move.
That's like if
We
you
have to
see
sell our place.
if you see a ghost in the house, like, and we're moving.
That's it.
They can have everything. They can have
We're
the
gonna
couch.
figure it out. Yep.
Like it's fine.
Yep.
And Wad Zombie, I have your cards too. I have to put them up. I heard you talking about that somewhere. My bad. I will put up these
They're over
cards.
there.
So yeah,
have them over
we
there.
have a bunch. And thank you for sending me the Colton Burns one. That was really fire.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of those left.
I know.
They're getting rare.
I got one.
We did.
But you are surrounded by all these guys that are, most of them are married, either have kids, but a lot of them do have kids. Do you have like dad energy? Is that in the future anytime soon?
That took a long time. I didn't think I wanted to for a long time. And here in recent years, it's coming.
Yeah. And that's, how old are you? Actually,
32.
Oh yeah, you got time. My first one was 37. You're good. You're fine.
How old are you?
Old.
I thought you were like 25.
I know.
Maybe.
I was born in the 1900s, baby. Don't play with me.
Same. You were born in the 80s, I guess.
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yep.
I was not.
We didn't have seatbelts. We didn't have car seats. We didn't have shit.
I missed the shit out of that too. Do you see Pedro's video where he's bitching at me about putting on my seatbelt the whole time we're at Crash?
No,
he did a vlog at Crash Crucible, and he's riding with me, and the whole time he's like, "Why don't you wear your seatbelt?" Oh, we got into the biggest argument about why I don't wear my seatbelt.
Well, now I have to always call Pedro sir, because I did that where he was just like, "Hey, get over being." Garrett oh, thank you, Wad Zombie. I appreciate you.
For real.
He said, "What the fuck, Garrett? How old?" Like, old, bro. Old.
She hasn't changed.
I'm starting to get little gray hairs in there. I'll probably start getting salt and pepper soon, but that's fine. I'm okay with it. But yeah, I have to call Pedro sir all the time because he said something to me in the podcast, and I was like, "Well, I'm sorry, sir, but we don't all have like whatever it was that I said." And he's like, "Well, you can keep calling me sir now." And it's like,
well, real quick, I don't know if you've ever shared this. I know I don't know the answer to this. How did you find this circle of guys? How did you find?
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking Clooney immediately when I said salt and pepper. You're right.
How did you find everybody? How did you meet Savon? How did you talk to him? And then how did you get into this circle of bros that you
circle of trust?
In 2020, when the world was falling apart, I would message Savon about like different things, like arguments about politics. You fought with him in the DMs too? I didn't fight with him. I would just ask him his opinions because I was just interested. And so it's like when I hear people are like, "Oh yeah, like I talk to Savon in his DMs all the time." Like I was originally one of those people where I was just like, "Hey, what about this idea?"
She was too.
Me too. I was yelling at him though most of the time.
But what got me in the group was, I mean, ultimately Brian Friend introduced me to Savon, and then like I think the group just sort of happened because we kept going on each other's shows and chats started, like group chats started, and then like people filter in and out, and then like one day it was just like, okay, we have like a thing we kind of have to keep safe, because it was like no one moved in and out for a while. And it's like we just kept going. And it was like I can't remember when it happened, but it was like the chat just never stopped. Like you would wake up and there would be 150 missed messages.
Oh shit.
Or if you're Pedro, like there's 400. And it's just like just one day that happened. And so like we asked Pedro where he came from one day. Like how we couldn't remember how he got in the chat.
That's awesome.
Halpin brought him in.
Oh,
which is hilarious.
Oh,
and then Savon kicked him out. And I don't know why. I think just because Pedro made a joke and Savon did it for funny effect. And then I think Savon did bring him back, or somebody brought him back. And he's he's like, I've been in the thread by the skin of my teeth for like ever. So it's like, I feel like that with Pedro. Like I somehow just got in at the right moment, and now I'm in. And I've remained productive. That's what I'm scared of all the time. It's like I'm not productive enough to stay in the group. Hell, I almost take myself out sometimes because I'm like, I'm not doing enough.
Well, Pedro just wasn't. There was a time where Pedro was like, "Hey, I'm never on the show again. I'm always the last one called." Blah blah. Now he's been set up to be on all these Kill Taylor shows, and he wasn't on last week, and now he got booted for Tyson patient.
I almost think that's a joke at this point. Like,
like, oh, you have the spot. Oh, you don't have the spot anymore.
Yeah, it is the worst. I feel so bad for him because he's over there. He's in Ireland, and it's like the time difference just blows. But it's like, I told him, I said, move to America, dude. This problem will solve itself.
Isn't his time? Isn't it like in the middle of the night?
It's like 5 hours. They're 5 hours in front of us.
Wow.
I'm still recovering because I just had like Jake Chapman, Jan Clark, and Pool Boy on for a like chat appreciation episode. So I'm coming down off the.
That's a good idea. Chat appreciation.
Yeah, it was fun. We're gonna try to do one again at the end of the month or whatever. But it was a good time just talking about everything hog. It was just hog talk for like an hour.
That's the craziest thing about the chat. I don't think other chats exist like that one.
No.
And it's been years in the making.
And they're their own early days.
Do you remember YOLO?
Yep.
And like I think what's his name? With the monkey, the AI monkey. Oh, he's always on everything. He torments JR.
Oh,
Rambler. I think Rambler is YOLO, but it's like there's these characters who've moved in and out, and like they have their own mythology. Like who's Trish? We still don't know who Trish is.
I have asked everybody I could possibly ask who Trish is, and I still don't know.
I'm gonna sell Heidi out. Heidi freaking knows who Trish is. She's the one who knows. Heidi's like the queen bee.
Yeah, she's OG.
I think Heidi's been around since day one.
She's
like
for sure.
And it migrated over from Sevon and Josh and Matt.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's a unique thing that exists, and it's like it's so aggravating because like so much has been accomplished with essentially no money.
It's insane what you guys have been able to do. Like it's so cool, and I have so many questions about it. I just keep wanting to ask. I'm like, literally in 2 months, I'm gonna be like, hey, come back on. How'd you guys do this? Like,
no one could tell you. It'd be like it just fucking happened.
But I think it goes back, and just the last thing, and then like I'll let you go. I've had you for more than I could possibly like. Thank you so much. But
it's Thursday. I don't work out on Thursday, so it's all good.
I think it just goes back to that elevator door thing, man. Like everything seems to have worked out exactly the way that it was supposed to, without you guys even trying to have it work out that way. And that to me is just so fascinating. To me, it just signifies it was meant to happen.
See, I don't know. I think it's just that like we got in. Maybe you're right. I think sometimes, like depending on the day, you could ask me, and if I felt like it was just meant to happen, I would say yes. And then other times I'm like, no, like what we're doing is genuine. Like all parties involved are just doing it because like they want it to exist. And other people, the majority of the space, the fans want it to exist. And so it does.
Yeah.
So it's like whether it's meant to be or not, I don't think so. I think it's just that like we're just doing things other people won't do.
Yeah. And you guys
like that's why the app exists. I haven't made anything unique. Fantasy's in a bunch of other things, but no one made it for CrossFit because it's too small.
Right. So now when this thing gets giant and they're actually a professional sport and you sell this thing for $300 million, like
idiots,
Barstool or whatever, like hold on to it. Don't sell it yet.
Right. So anyway.
That's awesome, dude. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate this. I'm glad we were able to find a time to be able to do it. I know you guys are about to be crazy busy, so I'm not bothering any of you for the next, until the games are over. But
bother away.
I really appreciate it. Judy Reed, the chemistry between these guys has a lot to do with the success. Yeah, you could say that. Sure.
I think so. I think you guys all just,
you guys are just good dudes that gel. And when you have a bunch of like-minded good dudes, shit happens. I like it.
Yeah. There's a ton of chemistry between Taylor and everybody else.
And I guess that's a good place to end it, right?
And I will be totally. Are you going to be on the Kill Taylor show on Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
Fire. All right, cool. I like.
Yep.
I like do it.
Is he gonna release the workout before a little bit so that because I know one of the things that happens, like people are like, oh, I mean, of course, there's always talk of like, oh, I'm gonna do it. I would do it if I had the stuff. But do you think that he's gonna release it a little bit earlier so that people can get to the gym, can get their stuff available?
That was an organizational issue last week. It should have been released earlier, and it's just like, oh yeah, fuck.
When homeboy had
to do that,
to go get
another
a kettlebell, and then you're just sitting there waiting. That was
Brandon. Brandon was being such a bitch too. I was texting him. I was like, dude, go get the other freaking kettlebell. Like we need. Like you're a pro competitor. Get here now.
Do it. Yeah.
Did you think that he could beat him? Is that why?
Yeah. Well, Brandon and I are sort of friends anyway. And so, and he had mentioned me a couple days. He was like, I think I can beat him at some stuff. And so I was like, and then when it was rope climbs, I was like, no, like, cause Brandon's tall. And I was like, no, yeah, you have a chance. Like you have a good chance to any.
Mm-hmm.
That was so good. That was so good, dude. Thank you.
Yeah,
so you saved that shit.
I didn't save it. Brandon saved it. I bullied him into doing it.
Like,
actually,
go get the fucking kettlebell. Like, stop talking shit. Just go get it.
Vindicate. Tyler, you have another show in an hour. All right, dude, you gotta go.
Do
I?
Look, Daddy just started talking. So Daddy said you have another show in an hour, and I can't be responsible
for making you late.
Yeah.
Thank you all. This has been great.
It was awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. It was so nice to meet you. Thank you for hanging out with us. And we'll talk soon.
Yep.
All right. Have a good one.
See ya.
Bye.
Oh, shoot, guys. Thank you so much for this. It was very cool, and I definitely.
Oops.
Oh, he's back.
Nope. I went to take him.
Definitely appreciate you guys, Bernie, Jeffrey Birchfield, Judy, Wad Zombie, Vindicate. Thank you guys, Lynn.
Wad said something about making an Instagram for the podcast.
We've thought about it. I don't know.
Explain why.
Yeah, hit me up in the DMs.
Yeah,
I don't know what to
why.
do. But
oh, thanks, Judy.
Thank you guys as always. I don't know how to do this technical shit, so I'm not. But
no, thanks for being here,
yeah,
guys.
Appreciate you all. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we really appreciate being able to meet everybody and be able to have a really cool conversation with them. And you guys being here and supporting us means a lot. So, but yeah, Wad Zombie, what do you mean by that? Let us.
Yeah, I need help.
When I share, I'm tagging some random person named.
What? You should. When I share it, I'm tagging some random person named Car. Oh shit, my bad. Sorry. Bernie Gannon, thank you very much. Appreciate y'all.
Vindicate, thank you.
Awesome sauce.
It's not anymore.
Yeah, Wild Zombie. It's not private. The G Strong page is
right here. Yeah, both of ours.
Yeah, we're
both of the names that are on the bottom of our pictures are both open.
Yeah.
Oh shoot.
Oh.
All right, cool.
Damn.
We'll look forward to it.
I appreciate y'all.
You. All right, guys.
Really much. Have a great night. Enjoy the rest of the shows.
Bye, guys.
Bye.